you, and I can just nod and concur. The situation that has been presented is despicable. The fact of not being able, as a special rapporteur, to visit the occupied Palestinian territory does not prevent me from accessing information because of direct channels to various people and organizations in the region, and there is still a level of documentation that of the ongoing violations by Palestinians themselves and Palestinian and Israeli human rights organizations that allow us to almost touch by hand the difficulties that the Palestinians are enduring in the West Bank. It is incredible that despite the many alerts and red flags and advancement of the annexation plan, which is tantamount to an aggression under international law, no one challenges what Israel is doing in the West Bank, which is an ethnic cleansing at a different speed than what is happening to in the Gaza Strip. I do believe that it's about time that we realize that the Palestinians are on a very sensitive point of a trajectory that has been decided long time ago for them. 20, 30 years ago, Benjamin Netanyahu was already expressing himself as fully against the creation of a Palestinian state, and he has been able, with him accomplices, to advance and to prepare the plan that allows for the final stage of the destruction of the Palestinian people. And this is what's going to happen to the Palestinians under Israeli rule is clear. Look at what's happening in Gaza, where the full destruction of the Gaza Strip has now led to the devastation of the survivors, on top of the estimated 200,000 between killed or estimated killed and those who have been seriously injured and will carry long life scars, for physical scars, for what they have endured. As we speak, winter has come, and 1.9 million Palestinians have been made homeless. Those who remain do not have a safe and dignified home where to seek repair, let alone access to water, access to that dignified existence. Every day now we see the survivors, those who are not bombed by Israel, trying to empty their tents of the water that has come in, either by the sea, because this is the place that Palestinians have been left to live, an area which is quite unsafe, and where can they only camp in between the sea and the full destruction of the various areas, Derbala, Khan Yunis, or Gaza City, El Mawasi. The ceasefire is just an empty word, because in a little over than a month since the ceasefire, Israel has killed nearly 300 people, 100 in one day only, 1 week ago, 50 children killed in one day during the so-called ceasefire. And I do not expect the last resolution passed by the Security Council to improve the situation. And as I was commenting on during my visit in Brussels, I'm really at a loss for words, because like many international law experts agree, and not many in the United Nations have the courage to say, this Security Council resolution runs against international law as established by the UN Charter, the principle of equality of member states, and the principle of self-defense, the right of self-determination that predates the UN Charter for the Palestinian people, and it has been violated through and through. And it is agreed that there is international consensus that has dominated for the past 35 years that the Palestinians must have their own state as the realization of self-determination as a people, and Israel is destroying it bit by bit, and now with the support of the Security Council, which puts a security first, a capitalist-driven security first, in fact, model above the rights of the Palestinian people. They won't have agency, they won't have direct control over the Gaza Strip. There will be an administration controlled directly by the US administration, and therefore nothing is getting out of the hands of the unlawful occupier, which is Israel. And what is shocking, there are two elements which are utterly shocking. The first is that the reconstruction plan not only is wrong as it's planned, because it's planned without the Palestinians, and while the bombing and the shooting and the starving are still ongoing, but also because Gaza is a crime scene. It's been theater to war crimes, crimes against humanity, a genocide, and this is where mass graves have to be identified, discovered, dignified burial is to be given. There are the civil records of the Palestinians that need to be found as much as possible. It's not up to a foreign administration whose members have been committing or have been accomplices in international crimes to determine the reconstruction of the Gaza Strip. So yes, Gaza is to be rebuilt, but when and how Palestinians decide, and the only thing that the United States and Israel have to do first in line is to make sure that they fill the envelope for the reconstruction without decision making attached to it. And this is the second part that is really shocking of this resolution beyond this content. It's the support it has enjoyed by member states. But again, here we are. This is what multilateralism has turned into, despite the noble efforts of a number of member states, mostly from the global south. The rest have been bending backward and forward to comply with the diktat of the United States, including European countries and European Union. The European Union has failed to act as a regional organization capable of enforcing even the most basic political measures to stop the crimes that Israel has been committing. And in fact, what I argue in my report, in my last report to the General Assembly, is that member states, including most European states, have contributed to create the conditions for Israel to maintain an unlawful occupation, an apartheid regime, and now a genocide. So, and this has happened through states providing diplomatic and political support, military support, and economic support. Bear in mind that when I say support, it doesn't mean aid, it means also political cover, but it also means mutual profiting, and I'll get to it when I cover the last point. So I found in my report that the European Union and its officials have continued to operate with Israel according to the long-tested model of business as usual, reiterating unwavering support for Israel's right to defend itself, even when it was absolutely adamant that Israel was committing crimes, international crimes, at least war crimes, targeting civilians, using indiscriminatory violence, failing to take precautions, and failing the proportionality test in its response, whatever it was, against Hamas. from an economic, and also what I should notice here is also the fact that the narrative and the political discourse that has been accompanying these political choices, never preventing Israel from joining international fora, has been to relaunch and to revamp colonial tropes against the Palestinians, buying into the logic of a civilized people fighting an existential struggle against a people of savage. The second element is the economic support. The European Union has proudly remained Israel's largest trading partner, accounting for 1/3 of the total trade flows, including over the past 2 years. Regrettably, the EU-Israel Association Agreement continues to operate unchallenged, with the institution failing once again to terminate it when the opportunity arose in last July. I also found extremely serious the fact that the Horizon program alone has financed and continues to finance in Israeli entities, including military institutions like the Israeli aerospace industries, Rafael Advanced Defense System, or Elbit System, and the Israeli Ministry of Defense itself, which have been part and parcel not only of the crimes that have been committed against the Palestinians, not only of the testing of weapons and technologies on the Palestinians, but also of the genocide that has been committed over the past 2 years. And also the EU financial backing has been significant because I estimated that also relying on public sources, that since 1988 the European Investment Bank has financed Israeli entities, including the one I mentioned above, for a total of nearly 3 billion euros, including directly funding banks which are listed in the database of companies involved in settlement-related activities, like Bank Leumi. But also, the European Union has maintained, or European countries, members of the European Union, have continued to supply Israel with gas and fuel, with major corporations having their headquarters in the European Union being instrumental to the arming, financing, and profiting from Israel's atrocities. Last but not least, there is the military sector, which remains a central pillar of the EU-Israel cooperation. And during the genocide, arms exports and imports from EU member states to Israel have increased. The European Union has supported Israel's military apparatus, investing in technologies that were tested, as I said, over the Palestinians, and these have been used to fortify its own fortress Europe, with Frontex deploying the very same drones that are produced by Israeli companies once tested on the Palestinians. And these are the same used in the Mediterranean Sea. So, again, this is where I say it's interesting the role that Europe is playing today, because it very much, and I say that with much regret, not only Europe is demonstrating to be willing to ignore human rights violations in order to protect the tools for its own violations, but in doing so, it's really showing an anachronistic colonial posture that's also evident in the alliances today it maintains with partners that are making us more and more insecure at the expense of a new multilateralism that could have happened with the global south, especially in the face of what has happened in the Gaza Strip. I want to conclude that it would have just sufficed to the European Union to follow what the International Court of Justice has determined in July 2024. First of all, European member states and European Union have not complied with the ICJ provisional measures that recognize the plausibility of a genocide and therefore triggered the responsibility to protect. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter that European institutions have refused to take care, to acknowledge a genocide. This is something that should be considered wherever there were a process, a trial against them or against the European leaders, because denial of genocide is part of the genocide itself. But even equally serious is the fact that the European Union has skillfully, masterfully circumnavigated the obligations posed and reminded by the International Court of Justice which recognized the legality of the occupation last July 2024, saying that the occupation is unlawful, is illegal, and it must be dismantled totally and unconditionally, because it has helped annex territory, further displaced, annex occupied territory, further displaced occupied population, and impose a regime that violates the provisions against racial segregation and apartheid. Therefore, what is to be done, and what should the European Union and its members, what should have they done? Simply make sure that Israel withdraws the troops, dismantle the colonies, and stop exploiting Palestinian resources. And instead, Israel keeps on building colonies after colonies as we speak. Not only that, keeps on aggressing through its soldiers and settlers Palestinians as we speak. So I think that this is the most, really the most shameful moment, and a moment of moral test for the European Union, whose hurt the value-driven Europe we once dreamed of and we thought to have partly realized over the year seems to be dead. It's still, and again, I do still believe that part of that heart, the dreaming heart of that Europe, is still beating despite or beneath the pain, and it's real. It's visible in the effort of its citizens across the continent, despite the fierce repression that has been unleashed against them. Take the example of Germany, of Italy, or France and other European countries. So Palestine represents a test today, not just for the Palestinians, not just for the United Nations, not just for international law and multilateralism, but also for the European Union, because especially for the young generation, which is very disappointed, according to the polls, about how politicians are handling political affairs. For them, this genocide is not something that they will read on history books, is history in the making, and they deserve better from the European Union. Thank you so much.